I think we're on with Matthew in the UK. You there, Matthew?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, nice to chat to you two. How are you doing?
Good.
Did you enjoy the back cruise?
I did,
Yes.
although I probably did more harm to my voice over last night's events.
I hope to eventually join you guys down there one year for that.
That'd be great.
It was really fun, yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping while I had the opportunity to chat to Heina while she was on here, I was wondering how seriously people that you know take missed prayer, Islamic prayer. Because I had a friend back at school that I was chatting to about this, and it was kind of strange that he was talking to me about the punishment that you get for it, and he fully believed this kind of thing, but yet still didn't seem to take it too seriously.
Well, I mean, praying 5 times a day is really hard. You have to disrupt your whole routine, you know, and you have to be ritually pure, so you have to be washed and all that stuff, and you have to find a place. And there's a whole Islamic song you can find on YouTube called "The Crazy Places I've Prayed." And yeah, people pray in all these random places because, you know, you're just in the middle of your day. I would say that it runs the gamut. I mean, there are people like my mother who, when she was younger, was not very religious, and she tried for years to make up every single prayer she had missed for something like 8 or 10 years. And she finally got so frustrated and upset that she talked to her religious teacher, and her religious teacher said, you know, don't worry about making up, you're better now. You know, you were a sinner and now you're redeemed. But then, you know, there are a lot of people who didn't take it that seriously because, you know, whatever, they just try to pray and then they hope that God will forgive them. I tried to take it seriously, but honestly, it was really hard. Even as fundamentalist religious as I was, I couldn't wait for my period, so I didn't have to worry about praying for a week.
Yeah, it seems like quite a big ask to every single day have to pray 5 times a day.
And so. It's boring. Prayers, you're reciting the same thing over and over again. And even if you kind of understand what you're saying, like me, most Muslims don't even know what they're saying. Like, they don't know Arabic. And, you know, you're bowing, kneeling, standing. It's just, it's boring. It's great to not have to do that anymore.
Yeah. I had one other question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
For both of you, I guess, because I know you've both said that you're into philosophy. I was just wondering if there's anything philosophical or, I guess, maybe like moral and ethical issues that you think even most skeptics might disagree with you with.
Are you trying to start a fight?
I was just wondering if there's anything that you think maybe like, yeah, in the communities that you're in, whether there's anything that you think is still something that you think most people should agree with that they don't necessarily.
Well, I mean, I can just say the word feminist and leave it at that.
That would probably be one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great way to start a fight.
And it's a lot of those things. You know, I was thinking about this the other day because, you know, I have tons of friends in the movement, including people I disagree with, and sometimes I'll have 2 friends who vehemently disagree with each other and think the other one's just evil and terrible. And yet, a lot of it, I think, has to do with not having one-on-one in-person contact, because I also know people who would probably hate each other and write each other off, except that they got to know each other in person, and all of a sudden you may cut some slack in one area, or you may hold out hope that eventually you might convince this person on the one little thing that you disagree on, rather than cutting them aside. But for some of the issues, the conflict is often about, you know, 2 people who are using language differently. They're talking past each other. They're expecting that if they mention something in shorthand that the other person has the same understanding when they don't. And a lot of times I've seen more than once people who think they vehemently disagree with this other person when really they just maybe only barely disagree, and they can, you know, work through it if they spent more time on it. But much in the same way we were talking about with, you know, engaging with believers, you don't owe anybody an explanation, and, you know, no individual is required to care and take the time to fully educate somebody else on what their view is. There are lots of areas where, like, I probably part ways with a lot of my liberal progressive friends on guns. I don't get some of the hyperbole that seems to be thrown out about guns, but then I grew up with guns, so it wasn't as big a deal for me. And I don't, you know, I live in Texas. Not everybody here is packing, and I don't run around in fear that everybody is packing. I think the conversation on that has been very problematic, because there are people who are ridiculously passionate of, don't take away my right to carry an AK-47 into a Chipotle, as was mentioned last night at Esther's. And there are other people who are like, oh, no guns, no nothing. And I won't say that the best response is directly in the middle, but I don't think it's necessarily out at either end.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me, guys.
Sure, thanks for calling.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
All right.
One thing I will say is that sometimes what some people might perceive to be a small disagreement is actually bigger for one side than the other. So, I've had people say to me that, oh, it's not that big a deal that we disagree about gender issues, but as somebody who is going to face the flip side of that, it's going to matter to me more than someone who doesn't. So, okay, this guy uses, he has misogynist views, and to a man it's like no big deal, but for me it's going to be a big deal, so.
Yeah, you can go ahead and queue up any one of the callers and we'll just take it when it's live.
Yeah.
Part of the thing is, we are stuck. We have to interpret the world based on our own experience and our own understanding. And I don't know what it's like to live life as you live.
Yeah.
And so there's this perception of, oh, well, this isn't a big deal, not only because I can't experience what you experience, but also because I project my view on the rest of the world. So there are, it's difficult for me to sometimes imagine how terrible some people can be because I don't experience it, and because I would like to think that they're more like me.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people say, well, he may be a raging misogynist, but he's actually a nice guy if you get to know him. I'm like, but why would I want to get to know him? He thinks I'm inferior.